My friend was sleeping over at my house. My parents and brother were all sleeping upstairs while we were downstairs watching TV, playing video games and shit. At around 1 a.m., he asks if this girl can come over. He really wants to get with this girl, and I don't. Story 1. Want to turn him down, so I reluctantly agree, on the condition that she's quiet. The three of us are hanging out, and I make some excuse to leave the room so my friend can have some alone time with this girl. I'm upstairs in my room when I start hearing loud moans. This is bad news for me, but great news for my friend. He's losing his virginity to a girl he really likes. I hear stirring in the next room, and I know that their bout of loud lovemaking has woken my parents. The last thing I want is for my confused father to walk in on my friend fucking this girl in my basement. What do? I go to Pornhub, click on the first video I see, crank that shit to 100 on my speakers, and let it play for the 3 minutes that my buddy ended up lasting. My dad ended up coming into my room, discovering the source of the noise. I even threw in some fapping motion under the covers, and awkwardly leaving. My buddy ended up having the best fucking time ever, bro. But Jesus, there were some awkward glances exchanged between my parents and I the next morning. Story 2. When I was young, my father said to me, "Knowledge is power." Francis Bacon. I understood it as, knowledge is power. France is bacon. For more than a decade, I wondered over the meaning of the second part, and what was the surreal linkage between the two. If I said the quote to someone, "Knowledge is power, France is bacon," they nodded knowingly. Or someone might say, "Knowledge is power," and I'd finish the quote, "France is bacon," and they wouldn't look at me like I'd said something very odd, but thoughtfully agree. I did ask a teacher what did "knowledge is power, France is bacon" mean, and got a full 10-minute explanation of the knowledge is power bit, but nothing on France is bacon. When I prompted further explanation by saying, "France is bacon," in a questioning tone, I just got a yes. At 12, I didn't have the confidence to press it further. I just accepted it as something I'd never understand. It wasn't until years later I saw it written down that the penny dropped. Comments. People were probably pretty impressed every time you seemed to know that the quote is attributed to Francis Bacon, even though you had no idea. That's what made it so baffling. It's a stupid thing to say, "France is bacon." It makes no sense at all. Yet they'd be impressed. I'd say it cautiously, in case someone said, "What the hell are you taking about? France is bacon. Have you lost your mind?" But they never did. That's what really kills me about this. The misinterpretation of reactions. It's nearly impossible to intentionally craft a scene with that kind of joke, and here you bumped right into it. I have seen this around the Reddit for some time now, but hadn't read your comment until now. And I haven't laughed as hard at anything as I laughed at the image of someone saying, "Knowledge is power," and you finishing "France is bacon," and the other person nodding in a deeply understanding manner. Story 3. How would life and society be different if we farted with the same ferocity and spontaneity that we sneezed? When I was in 6th grade, my small-town school track team did very well and was allowed to compete in the state finals. My event was the 200-meter dash, and while I did okay against the other small towns we normally faced, I had no chance at state. This was pretty much the case for most of us, so we mostly goofed off and explored the massive arena and whatever. I wasn't allowed soda at home, but somebody bought me a huge Coke, and I thought it was pretty great. Came time for me to run my race, well, actually my heat in the preliminaries, as this thing was so big time that they actually had more runners than would fit on the track at once. First time I'd ever seen that. Coach tells me to do my best and have fun. Nobody expects much. It's just an honor to be there. I line up on this beautiful, wide cinder track with maybe 15 lanes, I was used to 8, and an unbelievable crowd watching. Big grandstands full of people, all new to me. I get kind of excited about the whole thing. So we all set our feet in the blocks, crouch down and tense up, waiting for the shot from the starter pistol. Meanwhile, a hush settles over the crowd. We're on edge, waiting for the bang. When the starter fires, I take this huge leap forward. Like I'm going to sprint the whole 200 meters, which is pretty much what people who are good at it do, but not my usual approach. This massive physical effort simultaneously propels the most violent, loudest fart of my life out my preteen stinkhole. Most of the crowd hasn't trained to the peak physical level that I have, so their reaction to the pistol shot is a tiny bit slower. The effect is that after the bang, but before anyone makes a single sound, my fart echoes through the arena with unbelievable clarity and tone. For everyone there, it's just like bang if... I manage a few strides just out of instinct before realization of what's happening starts to set in. I glance over at the crowd, and in that split second, I can just see it on every face. They know. They all know. And they are all looking right at me. This starts me laughing super hard while also running as hard as I ever have. And what's my body's reaction to that unusual combination? Yep, fart a lot more. However, I am now taking strides pretty rapidly, so instead of one big blast, I'm ripping a little one with each step. I can't even think of what letters could represent the sound. If you can imagine a rapid series of very brief, very loud farts, that's pretty much it. This whole situation has only taken like 10 seconds to develop. We aren't even halfway done. Yet, and I've farted about 15 times, I literally could not continue from laughing so damn hard. I stumble to a hunched-over stop right there in the middle of the fanciest arena I've ever been to, giggling like the farting idiot I am. I then realize that nobody is rushing past me, which, come to think of it, should have happened by this time in the race, regardless of the fart situation. I turn around, and every one of the other runners is either lying on the ground or crouched over laughing just as hard as I am, literally crying laughing. Apparently, my fart-propelled lunge off the line had taken most of them out, and the rest succumbed to my staccato encore presentation. And that's the story of how an entire heat was eliminated from the 200-meter state finals with no one completing the event, which I was told had never happened before in the history of state finals. I escaped amazingly unscathed, as the tiny handful of people from my school were all setting up for their own events and not watching. There were rumors of a second farter, and basically they let me walk away. I hid in the school bus till we left, and my coach was the only person to ever speak to me about it. He didn't laugh, but he also didn't yell at me. Edit number 2. Well, come to think of it, we moved to another city that summer, so maybe people did know, and I just didn't know they knew. I am very oblivious to things. Maybe I brought such shame upon my family that we had to flee, and I just didn't notice. Edit number 3. I am so glad that this story made some folks' morning a little better. Reading your comments has made my morning nice, too. Never doubt the power of farts. Comments. You will. Never live that down, dude. I'm surprised ESPN didn't do a 30 for 30 on you, LOL. What if I told you breaking records wasn't as important as breaking wind? 30 for 30 presents. Gassed. At the starting line. Did any of the other competitors say something to you after the race? Yes, they all knew. The coaches and judge people all knew, and some of them were laughing, but some were pretty pissed off. I don't remember exactly what people AA'd. I was freaking out and laughing so hard all at the same time. It was a really weird situation. They made us all gather back together in the middle of the track and wait. All us kids thought we'd just run again, but the judges decided we were all disqualified. There was a lot more people upset by that decision than by my farts. And in the ruckus, I just walked away and hid. As a runner, I know exactly what you're talking about, a fart each stride you take.